Hello, I'm Dr. Lisa College. Welcome to Culture by Neurodesign. Now, there are a few times in my working life when people have said something to me that I find I keep coming back to, sometimes for years after their comment. And having spent a long time thinking about these comments and trying to understand them, I realized that they're observations about my natural style of working that I never thought were notable. To me, they're just my natural style of working. I never thought about them until my attention got drawn to them by these comments that I really struggled to understand at first. To give you a better taste of what I mean, one example was, Lisa, you tend to understand things very literally. Do I? At this point, I'd built up a load of expertise in user testing and buyer interviews and influencer decisions, which were part of building a new venture. And everything that I'd heard was that I was good at reading between the lines and digging into messages that weren't initially said, but were kind of there, hidden in what was actually said. And here was someone telling me that I was very literal. What? What do you mean? But it's something that I've come back to a lot. And I think about how it affects my ability to do my work at the level that I want, to have the impact that I want. And I think about what it means for how I interpret information that people share with me. So even though I did think at the time, what on earth are you talking about? I'm very grateful that I have this insight because it helps me to reduce the waste that I didn't even see when I engage with people who have great insights and great experiences to share. So this is one reason why I'm focusing my 9th of October live session on spotting hidden energy drains in our communication. It's because so much potential impact gets left on the table when we don't adapt our style to others. The registration link's in the episode notes. But let me get back to the podcast and give you another more recent example. So a leader for whom I have an enormous amount of respect said to me, Lisa, when you sent an email, do you assume that people have read it? Well, yes, I did always assume that people had read it. What are you talking about? I'm not sending emails for fun and to waste time. I'm sending emails to people who are part of the same project or initiative that I'm leading, people who are invested in it, people who want it to succeed. There's a good reason for what I'm sending. Of course, I assume they've read it. I always read their emails. So once I got over my amazement, incredulity, I started to think about why I was only hearing about this in a more recent part of my career. And I realized that it's because the type of work that I was doing, the kind of impact that I was delivering had changed. So when you're building new products, the engineers have to read your requirements or your stories so that they can build a product. There's really no other option. Marketing has to read the input that I gave into positioning and the user and buyer insights because they were not going to get it from anywhere else at the beginning. Sales had to read the sales brief because otherwise they'd have been less able to achieve their quota and get their bonus. The work that I was doing when that comment about, do you think people have read the email, was made, that work was much less structured. So I was leading initiatives involving people from different groups, different countries, different functions, different seniorities, people that didn't report to me, not even reporting with a dotted line, and for whom the initiatives were not the core of their work. They were incredibly passionate about the initiatives. They wanted to drive the changes. They wanted the outcomes that we were targeting. But the initiatives were the top of my KPIs, not top of theirs. So when I was providing information in an email and assuming in the next meeting or the next engagement that everyone had read and understood the email, I was causing churn. I had no idea that I was causing it. It wasn't visible to me, but I was causing it. I was wasting time of other people and wasting enthusiasm. I was delaying and probably reducing the impact that we would eventually have. So once I understood this from that comment, I started to research how I could improve. And I found out that You need to communicate in different ways that suit the different styles of the people at the other end of your communication. There's nothing wrong with email per se, but also talk through your message and let people watch a recording if that's how they prefer to consume what you're saying. It also gives them the option to listen on their way home or listen when they're cooking dinner and use all those little fragments of time that could be perfectly suited to listen to what Lisa is saying, if only I provided it in that way. I also stopped assuming that people had read what I'd sent or somehow consumed what I'd sent at the start of the meeting. And I worked hard on not judging people who hadn't prepared or who hadn't read. Often there was a very good reason why they hadn't been able to look at something. So I assumed best intent, and I started to build in at the beginning of the meeting a piece where we would get everyone to the same point. So I didn't ask who hasn't read this and let me tell you what you've missed. That's very judgy and blamey, and people are unlikely to put up their hand after the first time. Instead, I said something like, let's just get focused on this meeting with a quick recap of what's happened since last time. Or, I know you've all just come from focusing on other things, so let's all just take 3 minutes in silence to refamiliarize ourselves with the material that we need today. So that's a great tip to reduce wasted time, to reduce wasted energy. Just a few minutes of extra input in a meeting can redirect what would have been wasted into productivity. There was another aspect that I thought about as well in relation to whether I think that someone has read an email or not when I send it. So in between the product development that I mentioned and the cross-functional projects that I've just been talking about, I spent a lot of years working with influencers in the academic research community to develop a framework for the responsible use of metrics when evaluating the performance of individuals and research teams and research institutions. And I did it very successfully in my style. And people engaged very well, and the framework is still in use all around the world. But I started to wonder recently, how many people who wanted to engage did I miss? Did I unintentionally exclude? Because I only use my preferred style, my natural style. Excuse me. And could the framework have been even better if I had secured the input of these unknown people? What was the missed impact? No one's ever going to say to me, Lisa, you didn't deliver because you only used email, because I did deliver. But now I'm wondering whether I could have delivered more quickly to more people in ways that they found easier to use. So I'll never know the answer for sure, but I think I do know the answer. I think that because I didn't know at that time about the importance of adapting my communication style to the preferences of others, I think I left impact on the table back then, all those years ago. And that type of churn is exactly what I'll show you how to start to identify and fix in the free session that I mentioned on the 9th of October, because once you see the hidden leaks, you can plug them and you can redirect that energy straight into impact. The registration link is in the episode notes. Now, I'm not beating myself up. That piece of work that I'm talking about with the responsible use of metrics is work that I'm still very proud of. But I would beat myself up if, now that I do know what I'm talking about, I didn't do anything with it. So I consciously shape my communication style so it's more inclusive of how others may most easily consume and act on information that I'm sharing. One very small example is that I don't only send written WhatsApps now. I also send voice messages if that's what people send to me, because I am trying to notice, to uncover their communication preference so that I'm not wasting the attention that they give me and the time that they want to spend on learning what I'm talking about. I'm consciously working to reduce the impact drains that resulted from me only using my preferred communication style and nothing else. So as I said, I made these changes in how I work because of comments that happened to have been made to me. I was really lucky that they were made. They could easily not have been made. This reflection, which I've been sharing in this podcast, is the kind of reflection that leaders rarely make in real time. But you can see these energy drains earlier and turn them into opportunities if you learn a bit about how people prefer to communicate, if you learn a bit about people's preferred cognitive or mental styles. You can learn to avoid leaving performance on the table, and you can learn to amplify your measurable impact. And that's why I built my FIT framework, which gives you simple guardrails, 3 golden rules, if you will, to start to redirect attention and energy that's just currently draining away into nothing. Now, if you'd like more practical tips on fixing hidden energy drains, have a listen to episode 51, where I shared some autism-inspired communication lessons. And join me on the 9th of October for a free 30-minute session where I'll share case studies and my FIT framework. You'll learn how to spot hidden energy leaks in your team and how to redirect them into visible, measurable impact. The registration link is in the episode notes. Thanks for listening.